Hey everyone, it's Justice.
And I'm Laurel.
And we're the Daniels. I work in marketing.
I'm on the sales team.
And we're so excited to show you about the Little Rebel, our new 13-inch sewing and quilting machine.
Yes.
LJ, what is your favorite part of the Little Rebel?
You know, great question. Honestly, I love the 13-inch throat space combined with the height.
That is nice.
I love that. I think it's super unique to what this machine is, especially for what the industry is. There is nothing that has that combined throat length and height.
Yeah, and I'm super excited for just the story and message of what it can do. We're hoping that you can feel fearlessly creative. Should we go ahead and show it off?
Let's go ahead.
Right out of the box, the Little Rebel comes equipped to do sewing. That means it's gonna have your presser foot and your foot pedal all ready to go.
Yes, I love that, right? Think about that. That's one of the things you're like, all right, I got a new product, I'm excited to use it, and sometimes there's some setup required with it, not with this wonderful Little Rebel, right? Right out of the box, you're able to pull it out, turn it on, and get going with it.
Set it on your workspace and it's ready to go. It's got a nice sturdy handle so you can actually lift the machine up, not worry about it breaking, and it's got really easy to use and intuitive buttons that we'll get into right now on the front of the machine.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look, starting over here on this side. So right over here on this side, you're gonna see it actually is your speed adjustment. Now this is really fun to see. I love it because it has a sound for you when you click it. And it is also nice to see that even within one of these, there actually is a different, you'll see it kind of goes a lighter blue. So there's actually two settings within each of these points here. Show you that again. Click it down, so super simple, but again, you can see the light actually adjust. It dims just a little bit. When you hit it up, it goes brighter and then kicks it over to this one.
And that's awesome because that's the same thing you're gonna notice on your stitch length. It has that dual step lighting is what we're calling it. And when we're talking about lighting, man, there's a lot of lighting on this little machine, isn't there? For instance, we have all the lighting in the throat. So your whole throat is lit up with this nice bright light, and even your needle area. So your workspace right around your needle has high visibility. And what's really cool, we didn't overlook the small details, is it has this awesome bobbin light. So you're able to get into that area, get your bobbin case out, and exchange it. And talking about bobbins, we have a really great bobbin winder.
We do. So this is a wonderful, what we call optical bobbin winder. So one thing you'll notice right off the bat is it is built into the machine. So some other machines, it is a separate entity, but this, it sits right on it. So there actually is two different motors sitting in this machine. One that helps run the machine itself, another that goes directly to the bobbin winder. So if you wanted, you're getting all fancy, you can be quilting or sewing and winding a bobbin at the same time with it.
Without any power loss, without anything like that.
Without any of that. And then again, with it being an optical, it is unique that you can actually set the distance that you want your bobbin to fill to. So for example, if you're working on a project and you have a last little bit that you need to do, you don't need a full bobbin because this can take an M-class bobbin, so even bigger than what fits in your normal domestic machine. You're like, hey, I definitely don't need that space, right? You can set it to where it'll only half fill or whatever distance you want. And then there is also a start and stop button, or a pause, if you will, to again allow you fully adjust and set it to what you're needing for your project.
And going back to that M-class bobbin, for instance, that's about 50% bigger than a normal bobbin in a domestic machine. So that's very nice for the extra size to go a little bit further without having to change it out. And when you're talking about bobbins, you're thinking about your thread. We actually have a really good thread system set up here that maybe we could go into. There's the pad printing that actually helps you thread it right the first time. So you don't have to worry about, hey, it's a new machine, maybe you don't know fully how to do it. And we actually, with that, have two thread cone holders on the back of this machine.
Yes, which ties right into kind of, again, what we were talking about, that you can be winding a bobbin and still allow your machine to be fully threaded so you can be stitching with it.
Right, and so you're winding your bobbins, you're threading your machines. Sometimes you're gonna have to cut the thread. And so we actually have two thread cutters on this machine. One right back here near the bobbin, so when your bobbin's full, you can just make a clean cut, take the bobbin off, put it in your bobbin case. And there's also a thread cutter on the front of your machine. It's a little sneaky, it's blue, but you can take your thread and just run it along there and make a nice clean cut.
That is wonderful to be able to have a thread cutter in both spots, right up here at the top where you need it for your bobbin, as well as down here when you're actually working in your space.
It's awesome.
with that, I do want to actually come in here and we're going to focus on a few other buttons down here that you can use both when quilting and sewing, but some of them that are used more specifically with the sewing aspect of it. So we're going to start right here at the top. So this first button we have here is your super simple needle up, needle down. All you got to do is click it once. You see it's going to activate it for me, again, whatever position you need it to sit in. This next one is more, again, for that sewing side. So this is actually a back stitch. So once you have your machine going, if you need to go back over an area to kind of sew it off, super simple, have the machine running, and then you actually want to push and hold the button. That's the key. You have to push and hold it, and that's where it'll know to kick back into, again, that kind of reverse mode for you. And then down here at the bottom, again, we have that super simple, easy start and stop button.
Very easy, very intuitive, just like the buttons we went over earlier. And now I want to flip the machine around maybe so we can show some of the detail on this other side, because it really just is a cute machine. It's very fun, very nice. And on here you'll notice just some subtle patterning. If you remember the foot pedal I showed you earlier, there's actually a little bit of a pattern here that ties into the patterns on the side of your machine. Not only do we have that, I wanted to show off the presser foot release. It's just up here on the front of your machine, and it's a nice simple up-down to raise and lower that presser foot.
Wonderful. I think if you're ready, Justice, I want to show everybody how we can switch over from this presser foot into a hopping foot, and then actually show you how easy it is to put on a frame.
That'd be awesome. Let's do it. We're back, and we have everything we need to go from sewing to quilting on the Little Rebel. So let's show you what that looks like. But first, let's turn the power off so we are safe while doing it. You're going to take your screwdriver and you're going to unscrew your thumb screw that holds your presser foot in place. Once I've got the tension broke, I'm going to just go ahead and unscrew that by hand to take this presser foot off.
Yeah, super simple, very easy. Again, it is something you don't necessarily need to use any additional tools for. And then when actually adding the other hopping foot on, it's going to go in the exact same spot, and the thumb screw sits in the same spot as well. Sometimes there can be some confusion with it, but very easy, same position.
Yeah, and then once all that's off, I'm ready to put my quilting needle plate on. And why this is so important is, one, there's a way to put it on properly. You'll see there's a ridge that comes up. You'll match it in with a divot that's on the front of your machine so you know you've got it the right way. And what's very cool about this is the machine's smart enough that when you turn it back on, it knows it's in quilting mode now. So we're going to finish by putting the actual hopping foot on.
Yeah, so again, going back in that same spot, with it as well, we're going to want to make sure we actually drop our needle all the way down at the full bottom. So that's where if you need to mess with it a little bit, if you see it start to go back up, jot it back, because again, this is going to help us set the height the height of our hopping foot. So again, make sure the needle is dropped all the way down. He does have the hopping foot height tool. It's a super thin metal plate, but it's going to help give us those beautiful quilting stitches in the end. And
it's really as easy as that. It's very cool. We went a little slower because we're trying to describe it, but it's a really simple, easy, and honestly kind of fun to do to get ready to go into the next part of what my project might be.
Yes, next we're going to go ahead and show you it quilting, but we're going to show you how to put it on a frame as well, so how easy that is as well.
Before we swap over to frame quilting, I do want to highlight the stitch regulation that you'll use both sit-down quilting and on a frame.
Yeah, so we've turned the machine back on. And one thing you will notice is a little bit different is we didn't talk about it too much before, but we're going to highlight it now, is this little cue. So this is what helps kick on that stitch regulation. So you actually can turn it off and on. That's where this little button up here will highlight it when it's on. It'll go off when you're no longer in that stitch regulation mode. But with it, what allows you to do both push quilting, so that sit down quilting and on the frame, is actually the built-in optical encoder. Now this is wonderful because it helps with the stitch regulation. So in just about every other machine in the industry, there is a separate component for encoders that allow machines to be stitch regulated. Now it's not super hard, but there are still additional steps that come in when trying to use that and hook it up. And then the biggest thing with that is that you often actually have to be able to move it over to a frame to have some of that stitch regulation. So the fact that this is built in for you is wonderful, and again allows you to do both that push quilting and on the frame.
That's exactly right. And not only is it a little bit more cumbersome to put that on after the fact, it's also very expensive. It's typically about $1,000 plus to add stitch regulation to a machine if it doesn't already have it. So let's go ahead and do that transition we're wanting to do and show you it on a frame and what it comes with there. Now that we're back and our little Rebel's on a frame, we want to showcase the stitch controller that this comes with so it can help you frame quilt and you don't need that foot pedal. So if you look right here, our stitch controller has a start stop and a needle up, needle down. And what you're going to see is like the buttons we were talking about earlier, this stitch regulator kicks into place so it regulates your stitches. Really nice, really simple, really easy. You just put it on your handles, you can comfortably glide across everything that you need to while you're doing the quilting.
Yes, and a few key things we do want to point out is with this controller, like Justice says, it does come with it. When it does come with it, it actually will have printing on here to denote what one is your start stop and what one is the needle up, needle down for you. And then Justice did talk on it a little bit, but this actually just plugs in right where your foot pedal would. So there isn't any additional port or anything. Again, you're simply trading out your foot pedal, plugging this in so that it can be used easily on a frame. And then, yeah, biggest thing is just make sure that that optical encoder is up underneath the fabric, because again, that's what that encoder is, and that's what knows how to regulate the speed of your machine. But super simple, that's it. Again, you can use the little Rebel for push quilting, for simple sewing projects, and even on a frame for quilting.
That's awesome. It's really great to be able to show this off to everyone. And we'd hope if you have any questions, go ahead and call us, contact us anyway. And we're just excited to hear what your thoughts are on the Little Rebel.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Laurel.
And I'm Justice.
And we're the Daniels. Thank you.
Have a great one.